How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my NBA 2025-2026 playoff bracket prediction video. Going to go over my predictions, my playoff bracket from the play-in all the way to the championship. One of my favorite types of videos to make every year. I know I don't do a bunch of NBA videos, mainly NFL, but love doing these videos for the Jesus, I'm in a seizure for the NBA, the NFL. Always fun to go through the possibilities, all the potential matchups. Always a blast making these videos. Brackets, love filling out sports brackets, especially championship brackets. So, yeah, really fun NBA season. As a Celtics fan, obviously, my team drastically overachieved. Did not expect us to get 56 wins this year. I think I expected us to be better than most people, but I certainly did not expect 56 regular season wins. So we had a hell of a year. Really fun season, bunch of fun storylines, some tough seasons for a lot of teams. You get the usual tankers, but then you get the Pacers. What a disaster! I know they got killed with injuries too. Warriors got killed with injuries. They made the play-in of the 10 seed in the West. Um, who else? Who else? Lakers, they're the 4 seed, but they got railed with injuries. Luka and Austin Reeves. Pistons, hell of a year for them. Hawks came out of nowhere on a big win streak. Yes, a lot of them were against tanking teams, but hell of a year for them. Raptors getting up to the 5 seed. So some surprises, some expected teams like the Thunder. Spurs, hell of a year too, but some underachievers too, some tankers. Really fun NBA season, culminating in the playoffs, of course. And yeah, I will jump straight in here. So first, you got to clean up the plan. I know it isn't at least the 9-10 games aren't on here. The ESPN bracket that you can fill out, which I filled one out prior and it didn't save. So I don't know if the website's glitching or what it is, but whatever. I'll just fill out another one. Just replicate it. So, quick little rant about the play-in. I'm not the biggest play-in fan. I know a decent amount of people, if not the majority, feel the same way. Now, I'll preface by saying I'm going to watch the games. I'll be entertained by them. The atmosphere, the intensity. It's essentially playoff games, especially you get a one and done for the 9-10 seed matchups, and then same with the loser of the 7-8 matchup, the winner of the 9-10 matchup. But in my opinion, I thought it was a good idea for the NBA to implement it during the bubble season, the COVID year, to make up for the shortage of games. And then the same thing the following year. I believe there was 70-ish games played compared to the normal 82. So good idea on the league to throw that little tournament in there to make up for the difference in games missed. Now I think it's unnecessary. I think 82 games, whoever the 7 and 8 seed are in each conference by the end of the year, that should be the 7 and 8 seed in each conference. I think now it's kind of just a cash grab for the league, which the NBA is business at the end of the day. So I get it, but I just think it's unnecessary now. I'd like a nice clean bracket so we know who the 7 and 8 seeds are, which I know we will by, when is it end? Thursday, I believe, the play in, but still, it's just unnecessary in my opinion. I know that another thing, incentive for teams to not rest their guys, keep on pushing to avoid the play in at the end of the year. They're hovering around there. So I get that too, but not the biggest fan of it. I'll watch it, be entertained, but not the biggest fan of it. But anyway, clean some things up here in the play-in. So I'll start in the West. So the Clippers is the 9 seed, or well, sorry, the Warriors is the 10 seed, are going to visit the Clippers as the 9 seed. So whoever wins this game will play the loser of the Portland Phoenix game, and whoever wins that game will be the 8 seed. So yeah, basically, if you lose this game, you're out one and done. Well, if you win, you get a chance to make the playoffs. You get to win another game. Another road game is against again the loser of Portland Phoenix. The loser, you're out. So the Warriors, as I mentioned, they've gotten. I think I mentioned it. They've gotten killed with injuries. Curry missed a good amount of time. He's back though. He looks good, like good old classic Curry. Jimmy Butler going down. They've had just a nightmare of injuries throughout the season. They're slotted in the play-in. They've still been competitive for even. I mean, of course, they have a decent amount of blowout losses, but they still are competing with some teams for most of the games. Some of the better teams, even with all the injuries, just tough year for them. The Clippers, they started off disastrous this season. They were 6-20 or some awful, horrible record like that. 6-18, somewhere around there. And then they went on a heater. They traded Harden to the Cavs in the middle of the year. They've been playing well lately, I believe. Actually, I think they've kind of alternated wins and losses. They've just kind of been mid lately. They finished 42-40, so overall mid record pretty much. Clippers are just kind of stuck in mediocrity the past couple of years, it feels like. Yeah, I know last year they were the 4 seed. I picked them to beat Denver, but they got the doors blown off them in Game 7. But they're just kind of stuck in purgatory, it feels like. And the Warriors, just a tough year for them. Warriors very well could win the game from Curry just popping off. Porzingis could have a good game. He missed a good amount of time, too, when they traded for him from Atlanta. They have the greatest player in history, Al Horford, so who knows? Should automatically be the championship favorites just because Al Horford's on the team. But unfortunately for the Warriors, I think this is when their season ends. I'm going to pick the Clippers in this game. I think the Clippers are just a bit more well-rounded. They're the healthier team. They're at home. And I don't know. I just think they're the better team. The Warriors just probably mercifully end their season. But would not at all be surprised if the Warriors win. If they do win, I think Curry's going to pop off. But I'm going to pick the Clippers in this game to beat the Warriors and move on to play the loser of the Portland-Phoenix game. So moving on to that game, Portland, they've overachieved this year. I think they finished 42-40, same record as the Clippers, but they had the tiebreaker, I believe. They got my guy Jrue Holiday. Credit to them for A, overachieving, and B, especially under the circumstances with Chauncey Billups getting literally arrested. It's a handful of games into the season. So turbulent start. They made the playoffs still. So credit to them for that. The Suns, they've overachieved as well. Devin Booker, it feels like he's been in the league forever, but Suns have overachieved. They've had a solid year. Celtics played them a couple weeks ago, and it was a really hard-fought game. Still looks like the Suns are going to win. Then we had a run in the fourth quarter. So Phoenix been very competitive this year. Good for them. I'm going to pick them to beat the Blazers. They're the home team. I think they're the better team. Portland's overachieved. They could win the game because, I mean, again, Phoenix is good, but they're not, by any means the best team in the league. It's not like they're a juggernaut. Portland, all it takes just one good performance. They could pull it together. I could see it. They got some guys that can pop off there. I'm going to pick the Suns to beat them, though. And so that means the Suns will be the 7th seed and play the Spurs in the first round. And then, so the last play-in round for the West would be, in my scenario, would be the Clippers, who, remain the 9 seed at the Blazers, who remain the 8 seed. So these two teams just played 2 games ago, and the Blazers beat them, I think, by a decent amount. And again, they very well could win. In this scenario, they would be at home. Actually, they're going to be at home if they lose this game, regardless if it's the Warriors or the Clippers. But the Clippers playoff experience, you get Kawhi. I could just see him popping off. Same against the Warriors. He could just pop off. The Clippers have a decent amount of talent. I think they're honestly the better team, even though they're lower seeded than the Blazers. Playoffs, good year for the Blazers, but I don't think they're going to beat the Clippers if that happens. Who knows, though? So I'm going to go with the Clippers to get the 8th seed and match up with the Thunder in the first round. So I can't fill it out yet because I don't know what happened. What will happen in the play-in. But imagine in my scenario, the 8th seed, the Clippers, and the 7th seed, the Suns. And then on the East side, I think the East side's play-in is much more entertaining, at least on paper, going into it than the West. So the 9-10 matchup, Charlotte and Miami. Well, actually, it's Miami at Charlotte. That is a very interesting matchup. That is really intriguing. Now, the Heat, they were the 10 seed last year as well. And they made the playoffs. They won both their playing games on the road, and again, I think they won 37 games in the regular season. They had no business being in the playoffs with that record. They got it choked, so the Cavs just absolutely annihilated them. I think the only game that was close was game two, because they had Davion Mitchell went off, I believe. Someone went off. I think it was Davion Mitchell for them. But then the other three games, the Cavs just absolutely blew them out, just blew the doors off them. But the Heat just, again, I call them the Miami Heat because it's just every year they're just floating around 500. They get a solid bunch of like guys, but not really a superstar. Maybe you could put Bam in that category. You know, one of the I don't want to say he's one of the premier players in the league, one of the better players in the league. Maybe superstar category you could put Bam, especially after he scored 82 against the Wizards. So, but they're interesting. I call them mid-Miami, as I mentioned, but the playoffs, I don't know what the hell happens. It's like they turn into the greatest team in NBA history the past couple seasons, at least under Spoelstra. They almost got eliminated in the play-in 23. They were losing to the Bulls in the fourth quarter at home, and then they won that game, and they made it all the way to the finals. So who the hell knows with this team? The Heat, I know this year again, just same as the past couple of years, mid, float around 500, win one, lose one, win two, lose two. Just a bunch of solid kind of role players that they're no one's like awful, but they're not great. They're just kind of okay. But they turn it up in the playoffs, and they have playoff experience. It's just their confidence level in their play rises, which is good for them. And then you get the Hornets as the 9 seed. I was actually kind of a bit nervous. We may play them in the first round as the Celtics. As a Celtics fan, I think we would have beaten them. I wouldn't have feared we would have lost that series, but I certainly think there was much easier options for us compared to the Hornets, who were red hot. Their season started off like normal, disaster, one of the worst teams in the league. And then since the new year, they just have been on an absolute heater. And I believe they've the top net rating. At least this was true as a couple weeks ago, the top net rating in the league since January 1st. So there's that. They're red hot. They didn't get very hot from three. They absolutely annihilated my Celtics in Boston a couple weeks ago. We ended up beating them the other night, and in Charlotte, so we won the regular season series. But yeah, they can get red hot from three. They've been red hot overall. So very interesting. Young, inexperienced Hornets team, but they're red hot. They're at home. Chance to make the playoffs for the first time since, Jesus, when the hell was the last time the Hornets made the playoffs? Was it 2013 off the top of my head? Not 100% sure, but it's certainly been a while. And the Heat, who were they're the playoff experience. Their game just rises up in the playoffs. And I know the play-in technically isn't the playoffs, but sort of this playoffs still. So very interesting. The Hornets really should win this game, but in a scenario like this, again, would not at all be surprised if the Heat just turn it up a notch. Their playoff experience kicks in, the Hornets' inexperience kicks in, and the Heat end up winning and the Hornets lose. That would be a sad way for Charlotte to go out. I hope they do make the playoffs. I kind of have been pulling for the Hornets for a bit. Even before like they got red hot, they were my tier 3 team in 2K because I put as a tier 3 team a couple times to get the progression up compared to the tier 1 and tier 2 teams. And I was doing good with them. And I'm like, this team is really good in 2K. I'm like, I'm surprised they haven't, well, maybe not surprised because the Hornets just been so bad for so long. But I'm like, they might pull it together. And then they moved up to tier 2. And right now they're still in tier 2, but they've just been red hot. They've been my 2K team. I've kind of liked them for years just because of their court. Tatum always goes off in Charlotte. Just the environment in that arena. Charles Lee, former Celtic assistant coach. I like him. He's done a great job this year. They get Grant Williams, another former Celtic. Kind of pulling for them. Obviously, if somehow they match up against my team, which would have to be in the conference finals, because the highest Charlotte can get is the 8 seed. If they somehow match up with my team, obviously I'm not going to root for them. But anyway, getting off topic here. I'm going to pull for them in this game. and it would be nice to see the Heat lose as a Celtics fan. I'm going to pick Charlotte to win, but I'm really kind of uneasy on it. Could see the Heat's just experience getting them over the edge here, but I'll pick the Hornets in this game. Gonna be interesting though. That's probably out of all the play-in games, the most I'm intrigued about. So that brings me to the sorry, I'm going to text you the 7-8 game. So Orlando Philly. So Orlando completely blew it last night. They played the Celtics and the G Leaguers, our bench. Just, I mean, it's guys that are, most of them are going to get playoff. And Shireman will, Walsh probably will sparingly. I hope Garza does, but he's kind of an unknown. He'll be behind Vucevic though. But most of the guys aren't even going to get minutes. Ron Harper Jr. went off. I'm really glad we signed him to a standard contract. But yeah, I mean, G Leaguers. I mean, and again, I'm thrilled we won because obviously A, we won, and B, it sent the Magic to the play-in, and I was kind of iffy on again, sort of like the Hornets. I'm not afraid we're going to lose the series if we match with the Magic again, but last year that 5-game series we had against them, it was very physical. Tatum hurt his wrist, and they play a very physical brand of defense, not as good this year as they had last year, but I don't want to deal with the physicality. It can drain our guys, maybe can get tired moving on. Maybe that's part of why we lost to the Knicks last year, you can say. I didn't really want to deal with that again. Not that I would have, again, had a fear we would have lost the series, but still. Now I'm like that. I mean, if our G League team is going to beat them, what the hell is our starters going to do? And the Magic had a lot to play for. They could have gotten as high as the 6th seed yesterday. And now they have to travel to Philly. So instead of hosting the play-in game. So that's the Magic. That's just an absolute unacceptable loss for them. They almost came back. They tied it late after being down double digits in the 4th. But Garza hit a big 3, and then we ended up winning. Walsh hit his free throws after. We ended up winning by 5. But yeah. So it sent Orlando to the play-in, and at first I was like, I don't know if I want them again because the physicality, their defense could drain our guys. Now I'm like, all right, I kind of want them because I feel extremely confident we might just sweep them and blow them out. Honestly, every game. But maybe not every game, but most of the games. And then C, it gave the Knicks a much harder matchup instead of the Raptors, who I think the Knicks would have annihilated in probably 5 at most. 6 would be stretching it, probably 5 at most. It gave them the Hawks matchup, which is going to be much more difficult than the Raptors matchup, is kind of the consensus. But anyway, Orlando Philly in the play-in. Yeah, Orlando just, they were on a 5-game win streak too entering the game last night. But yeah, Orlando up and down year for them. Injuries, record-wise, they're a couple games better than they were last year, but similar story, just kind of mid, bad offense. Desmond Bane's been really good for them, but bad offense. Defenses went down a notch, as I mentioned. Just kind of floating in no man's land, it feels like, this year. And then you get the Sixers, who they could be a dangerous 7 seed. And B just had his appendix removed, so he's going to be out. It's not a definitive timeline, but maybe he'll come back in the first round. He's not going to be back in this game, at least I don't think, unless I don't know something. But he could maybe be back in the first round if they somehow advance past the first round. And again, assuming they make the playoffs, maybe they could get Embiid back then. Who knows how long it's going to take? I'm sure Embiid has access to better medical treatment than most people. Maybe he'll push himself to get back if he's not 100%. We saw that a couple of years ago against the Knicks in the first round. But anyway, Philly, they're an interesting one because they're better than typical 7 seed because they've dealt with injuries too. Embiid missed a good amount of the year. That's kind of every year, but they've dealt with injuries throughout the year. I believe Maxey missed a good amount of time as well. And then they've been held. Paul George missed a good amount of time because of the suspension. I think Maxey missed a good amount of time, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. But Paul George has been playing well lately. They're getting hot. They're going to be a dangerous 7 seed. I am going to pick them to beat the Magic and get the 7th seed, meaning they'll match up with my Celtics in the first round, and I'm going to game one. So I could try to go to game one of round one every year. I've done it since the 23 season. We've won every game, so that's nice. So that'll be a good matchup. We played Orlando last year, so I already saw that matchup. And again, it's same team, some different guys, but I think the Philly team matchup would be more entertaining, but I honestly hope Orlando wins because I think we'll have an easier time with Orlando than Philly. But I think Philly will win even without Embiid. I think they're going to beat the Magic. I think yesterday was kind of the nail in the coffin for the Magic season. So I think they're going to drop this one and play the Hornets in the play-in. And as I kind of mentioned, the Hornets, I think, are going to beat them, even though it'll be in Orlando. I think the Hornets will win that game. Orlando could just win in a defensive game, kind of grind it out type of style, but I would pick the Hornets there. So I have the Hornets as the 8th seed and the Sixers as the 7th seed. So, okay, moving back to the West here. So again, just pretend it's as the Clippers is the 8th seed. Thunder Clippers. Yep, I'm going to go with the Thunder here. Regardless of who gets the 8th seed, I think the Thunder are just going to blast them off the court. If it's the Warriors somehow, I think they'll blast them off the court. If it's the Warriors, I think maybe they could get a game because of Curry popping off. The Clippers, I do think could get a game. Maybe Kawhi pops off again. They kind of are well balanced, but I'm honestly going to pick the Thunder in 4, which I'm not too confident with. I'm kind of tempted to say 5, but I'm going to say Thunder in 4. They sweep the Clippers. If it's Portland and Phoenix, I think both those teams get swept by the Thunder as well. I'm going to say Thunder in 4. Don't want to overanalyze it. Thunder just much better than the Clippers, so I'm going to pick them. Maybe at most the Clippers can get a game. Thunder would have to really slip up for it to go beyond that, I think. I don't want to overthink it. I'm just going to pick the Thunder in 4 and have them moving on to semis. Lakers Rockets. This is interesting. Now, if the Lakers had Luka and Reeves, I would pick them against the Rockets for a bit. I think even in my video I made a couple weeks ago, which I think it was right before Reeves and Luka got hurt, I said whoever kind of gets the Rockets, I'm picking them in round one unless something changes. Well, the injuries are obviously going to drastically change the Lakers season. Now, Reeves, it seems he's definitively out this round. Luka's trying to come back, it seems like. Now, if he comes back, is he going to be 100%? Who knows? Is he going to rush back? He's just not going to be himself, probably, if he rushes back. But still, even like 70% of Luka is going to be a major boost for the Lakers here. So the Lakers, they do have home court, so that's good. The Rockets have been hot, though. I believe they lost the Timberwolves recently. Besides that, they have not lost in a while. So they're peaking at the right time. Maybe the kind of up and down season kind of just peaked, and now they're just flowing right. The burner thing with KD went under the carpet. So yeah, they're interesting. They're red hot. I'm gonna pick them just because of the Lakers' injuries. If Luka does come back, I don't think the Lakers have a chance unless Luka comes back. I think I'm going to go Rockets in 6 because I think there'll be one game LeBron turns into Superman, probably goes off and carries them, scores a bunch of points. And then I think there'll be one game where the Lakers, as a team, just play very well. They probably have magnet ball from 3. The Rockets don't play well. So I think there'll be one of those 2 games. I was honestly tempted to say Rockets at 5 just because that's how little faith I have in the Lakers without Reeves and Luka. But I'll say Lakers in 6. Again, I really don't think the Lakers have much of a chance unless Luka can come back. If Luka comes back, that's the only way I could see the Lakers win it. If he comes back, it'll probably be around game 3 or 4 is my guess. If they're down 3-0, they probably won't rush them back. But I think the Rockets honestly I think it might be 1-1, and then the Rockets may win the next 2 to make it 3-1. But if Luka comes back, I could see them pulling it off in 6 or 7, maybe if he's classic Luka Doncic. But I'm going to go with the Rockets here. I'll say Rockets in 6. Tough way for the Lakers to end their year. I'm predicting with the injuries. Again, I would have picked them to beat the Rockets here if they had Reeves and Luka. So tough way for them to end the year. But I'm going to pick the Rockets because of the injuries to the Lakers here. Nuggets Timberwolves, really really intriguing matchup. We just saw this a couple years ago when the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets in Denver in Game 7 to knock them out of the playoffs. Knock them their repeat chances away. And as soon as that happened, I knew my Celtics were going to win the championships. I thought the Nuggets were the only team that could. I think we would have beaten Nuggets, but I thought the Nuggets were the only team that realistically could have beaten us in a 7-game series that year. So I was very thankful the Timberwolves knocked them out for us. But yeah, obviously different scenario a couple years later, 2 years later. Nuggets just consistently one of the better teams in the league. Jokic just consistently arguably the best player in the world. Honestly, I mean, you can argue it, but it probably is. I mean, in my opinion, he probably is right now. Timberwolves, very up and down year for them. It feels like they've been coasting a bit. I mentioned it in the video I made recently, my NBA video I made recently, that when we played them a couple weeks ago, they kind of just coast in the first 3 quarters. Then they just turned it on in the fourth quarter, and they killed us in that fourth quarter, and we lost in Boston to them. So we've seen the Timberwolves, and they really want to lock in. They can. Now, they're probably going to lock in the playoffs, I would imagine. They were the 6th seed last year, and they made it to the conference finals. Back-to-back years, they made it to the conference finals. And they, again, as I mentioned, they beat the Nuggets a couple years ago. And I think that Nuggets team a few years ago that they beat was a better version than this Nuggets team. I think that Timberwolves team was probably a better version of the team as well. And they've had some injuries throughout the year, if I remember right. But they're kind of a dark horse in the playoffs here. I could see them losing round 1. I could see them making it back to the conference finals. Now, again, are they going to knock off a team like the Spurs? Probably not in the second round if they beat the Nuggets, but who knows? I mean, both the Nuggets and the Spurs are going to have a gauntlet to the finals. My God, they're going to have to go through each other. The Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Spurs should have a relatively easy first round matchup. And then they're going to have to knock at the Thunder. But anyway, yeah, this is tough. I'm going to go with the Nuggets. I'm going to say Nuggets in 6. I think the Timberwolves will get hot for a game. They'll probably win comfortably. There'll be a game that's close to the Timberwolves win. But I think for the most part, I think the Nuggets will probably win one game in a blowout. I think the most part, this is going to be a very competitive 6-game series. Most of the games close. I'm going to give the Nuggets the edge. I know, just the Timberwolves have been too hot and cold this year for me. So I'm going to go with the Nuggets. I don't think Jokic is going to get knocked out in the first round. I have a hard time seeing it happen. But at the same time, I think it's the same thing with Anthony Edwards and this Timberwolves, seeing the amount of talent they have. But I'm going to pick them. Would not at all be surprised if the Timberwolves win. I could see the series going 7. I'm going to pick the Nuggets. Going to be competitive, really entertaining. At least it should be first round series. I'll pick Denver in 6, though. And then you get the 2-7 matchup, the Spurs. And again, I'm predicting the Suns. Yep, I'm going to go with the Spurs. I really don't think, barring an injury, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, something unforeseen, that the 7 seed has a chance. And again, I'm predicting it's the Suns. It's the Blazers. I certainly don't think they get a chance. So I'm predicting the Spurs. I'm going to say in 5, though, which I'm tempted to say 4. But I think there'll be one game the Spurs just kind of don't play great, and the Suns just sorry, I'm getting another text. I think there'll be maybe one game, maybe the Spurs are at 3-0 in game 4. They kind of just take it back a step. Their playoff inexperience shows, and someone like Booker goes off. It's close, but the Suns win. I could see that. I'm going to say Spurs in 5, but I really am tempted to say 4. I could see the Spurs just blowing them out all 4 games, but I'll say Spurs in 5. I think Phoenix will get a game. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of water here. Okay, here we go. Pistons, and again, I'm predicting the Hornets is the 8 seed. This I really would like to see the Hornets get the 8 seed because I think Pistons Hornets is a very intriguing first round matchup. Now, the Hornets I think can really push the Pistons to make it a competitive series. I really do. However, I'm gonna pick the Pistons. I'm going to say in 5, honestly. I think all 5 games, maybe the Pistons win in a blowout. I think Charlotte will probably have one game where I could see a blowout. They just get red hot from 3. I think they'll probably win one close game. I think all the games will be close, but I think the Pistons are going to end up edging out the Hornets in most of the games. The Hornets playoff experience, I think, is going to show a bit. It's not like the Pistons, a veteran playoff team either. They made it last year, but they lost in 6 to the Knicks. This year, though, they're much better than they were last year. And even without Cade Cunningham, they were playing very well. Jenkins was playing great for them. And now they got Cade back. So the Pistons, that crowd's going to be going crazy. They're the 1 seed, 60 wins. And, the Pistons haven't been a premier team for a long time. They didn't win a playoff game at home last year against the Knicks. So that crowd's going to be going crazy. And the Hornets, you can say the same thing, though, that their crowd's going to be going crazy. Especially the Hornets can just win one of the first 2 games. The crowd at home going into game 3 is going to think they have a really realistic chance to upset them. So the Hornets can really make it competitive with how hot they can get from 3 and how hot they can get offensively. But the Pistons just the better team, more well-rounded. I'm going to pick the Pistons in 5. Could see it going 6. Don't see it going 7. I don't see the Hornets beating them. Tempted to say 6 originally, but I'm going to say Pistons in 5. If the 8 seed is the Heat, I'll say Pistons in 5 as well. Could see 4 though. If I don't think the Pistons will sweep the Hornets, they could. If it's the Magic, I'm going to say Pistons in 4. I think they'll sweep the Magic. And if it's the Sixers, that's very intriguing. If it's the Sixers, I'll say Pistons. I'm going to go with the Pistons. I was just thinking 5 or 6. I'll say Pistons in 5 if that's the case. Because assuming they don't have Embiid, if they have Embiid, I'll say Pistons in 6. They could go 6 without Embiid, but I'll say Pistons in 5. Very competitive series, though. It's the Sixers. But I'll say Pistons in 5, predicting the 8 seed is the Hornets in my scenario. Cavs, Raptors. So this matchup did not look like it was going to happen, but because the results yesterday, it looked like it was going to be Raptors next. Now it's Raptors, Cavs. The Raptors moved up to the 5 seed. Gonna go with the Cavs here. I'm gonna say Cavs in 5. I don't think the Raptors are really gonna push the Cavs that much. I think the Raptors will win one game. The Cavs just the better team. I don't think the Raptors match up well with them. No disrespect to the Raptors, they've had a hell of a year, overachieved, I would say, but I don't think they're gonna make too much noise in the playoffs here. I think they'll get a game, maybe 2 at most, but I don't see them beating the Cavs unless something like an injury. Again, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. Does happen, so I'm going to go with the Cavs here. Knicks Hawks. So as I mentioned a bit ago, I would have picked the Knicks in 5 against the Raptors because I think the Knicks probably would have had one game where they slipped up, but now they play the Hawks, who I think is a much tougher matchup for them. I'm going to pick the Knicks still. I'm actually going to say Knicks in 6, but I'm tempted. I'm back and forth between 5 and 6. But one thing with the Knicks this season is they have been consistently inconsistent. They get hot, then they get cold, then they get hot, then they get cold. I think that's honestly going to carry over into the playoffs here. And the Hawks can also get hot. They've been hot lately. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of their wins were against some of the worst teams in the league, teams that were tanking, but still, they're red hot. They're the 6th seed. I certainly think they'll at least get a game. Maybe two. I think they'll probably have one game where they're just red hot shooting. They win comfortably. Then they have a game that they win close. Maybe the Knicks don't play that great. Atlanta just outplays them. But I certainly think the Knicks should beat them, but I think it's going to be much more competitive than it would have been if it was the Raptors. Cat is going to be a key for the Knicks here. Who the hell is going to guard him on the Knicks? The Hawks is the big question going into the series, is what I see some people talking about, the early preview. So I'm going to pick the Knicks, but Atlanta can make this competitive, maybe push it to 6. And then you get Celtics and either the Magic or Sixers. Again, Sixers in my scenario, if it's the Magic, I'm going to say we sweep them. Honestly, at most, I think that would go 5. Sixers, I'm going to say Celtics in 5. Again, assuming they don't have Embiid, I think Philly will get a game, but I think it'll certainly be much more competitive, at least it should be, if it's the Sixers instead of the Magic. But I just think we're the better team. We match up well with them. The regular season games were very close, but again, you don't want to base everything off that, and we didn't have Tatum for any of them. So assuming they won't have Embiid, I'll say 5. If Embiid comes back, I'll still stick with Celtics in 5, but it could be 6. Certainly not an ideal 7 seed. So a 7 seed matchup is the 2 seed, but I think we'll take care of it. I'm not too concerned we'll lose the series, but Philly certainly is much more kind of similar to the Knicks I was talking about. The Raptors are kind of similar to the Magic, and I think both Knicks would have beaten them easily. We would have beaten them easily, the Magic, and we still can potentially if we match up with them. But the Hawks are kind of similar to the Sixers, and in the analogy of the Knicks and the Raptors I was mentioning there. But yeah, I'll say Celtics in 5. If Embiid comes back, though, going to be more competitive than it probably already will be. Okay, moving over to the semis here. Thunder Rockets. Interesting matchup. We saw this as the opener for the year, and the Rockets really pushed the Thunder. Double overtime. I think the game went to double overtime. The Thunder ended up holding on. This is when I think the Rockets kind of run out of fuel. God, that was a bad pun. But yeah, I just think the Thunder are going to be too much to them. I'll say Thunder in 5. I think Houston will get a game, maybe from KD going crazy. I do think it'll be competitive. The Thunder will probably have like 1 or 2 blowout wins, but I think for the most part it will be a mostly competitive series. Rockets, I don't think realistically can really pull off that upset, but maybe KD turns into Game 7 KD against the Bucks in the 21 season, and Game 5 KD just absolutely carries them. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I'm going to go with the Thunder. I'll say in 5. Could see 6, though. Okay, this is when it gets really good. Nuggets Spurs. This is going to be an absolute war. I think this series is going 7, and I am so split on who I am picking in this series. I'm not really going to take too much stock in the game. Yesterday we saw, because Wemby didn't play at all, and then neither team really played a lot of their key guys for most of it. But what we saw a couple weeks ago with the Nuggets won in overtime, I think that is going to be what a majority of this series is. And if that's the case, sign me right up for it. I will be tuned into all 7 of those games if it goes the length. It goes 7. Now, the Spurs, what's been the knock on the Spurs going into the postseason? Playoff inexperience. I mentioned part of the reason I'm giving, again, my projected 7 seed Phoenix a game is because I think the Spurs' playoff inexperience. They may kind of just show up lackadaisical one game, and they'll slip up with the Suns win one. The Nuggets are obviously a lot more difficult of a team than the Suns. And we saw a couple weeks ago, it looks like in crunch time, the Nuggets were just more comfortable than the Spurs. And it was a high stakes matchup, but it was a regular season matchup. The playoffs are even more high stakes. And the Nuggets, specifically Jokic and Murray, are much more playoff experienced and crunch time games and things like that. So the Spurs playoff inexperience, I think, is going to show up here, certainly. The home court is going to be big, though. I really think that Wemby's going to have a feast of a series. Jokic will as well, but it's going to be any series those guys are in. They're probably just going to feast. This is really difficult. I'm back and forth. Game 7 in San Antonio alone suggests the Spurs should win. I predicted Clippers Nuggets to go 7 last year, I believe, and I picked the Clippers, and the Nuggets just absolutely annihilated them. And this is really difficult because both of these teams, I think, can legitimately and really challenge the Thunder. I would say maybe slightly the Spurs. They beat the Thunder 4 out of the 5 times in the regular season. But again, you don't want to base everything off the regular season matchups. This is really difficult. However, I am going to go with the upset. I'm going to pick the Nuggets here. Again, in 7, I think the playoff inexperience of the Spurs is going to hurt them. I think it's going to be a very competitive series, and the Nuggets in crunch time are going to prevail because of the playoff experience that they have and the Spurs don't have. I could see the Spurs, honestly, maybe winning comfortably in Game 7 if that happens. But maybe the Nuggets just kind of run out of gas because, again, they get an absolute gauntlet going to the Timberwolves. Assuming they beat the Timberwolves, they could lose that matchup, as I mentioned, talked about a bit. So they get a gauntlet. The Timberwolves, maybe they're a bit tired after the Spurs should have kind of a relatively easy first round matchup, and then hurts them in Game 7. Maybe that's what happened to the Nuggets last year against the Thunder. They went 7 with the Clippers, and then they went 7 with the Thunder. Maybe this got tired in Game 7. And then that's why the Thunder blew them out. Well, the Thunder outplayed them, but maybe that was part of it. I mean, but I don't know. I picked against Jokic in a 7-game series last year when I predicted to go 7. I'm not going to do that again. I picked the Nuggets in Game 7 last year against the Thunder before it happened because I thought the playoff experience of Joker and everyone and Murray, but I'm going to pick them to beat the Spurs. Am I confident with the pick? Not at all, because this so far has easily been the toughest matchup to predict. And it very well easily, if the. I'm trying to think, yesterday there was a scenario. The Nuggets could have been the 4, and I really think they would have beaten the Rockets. That happened. And the Lakers could have been the 3, and the Timberwolves probably would have beat them. So it would have been okay. So it would have been Thunder Nuggets in the second round. I have that in the third round, but it could have been Thunder Nuggets in the second round, then Spurs, and I would have picked the Timberwolves against the Lakers in the first round because the injuries. So it would have been Spurs Timberwolves. Still could be Spurs Timberwolves, but anyway, I'm going to pick the Nuggets. Am I confident with the pick? Not at all, but I'm going to go with it. So in the West, I have Thunder and Nuggets in the conference finals. The semis last year, that matchup, I have it in the conference finals. All right, take a sip of water here. Okay. Really good matchups in the East as well. Pistons, Cavs. This is really tough. This is really difficult. Now, the Pistons, as I mentioned, they're getting a lot of disrespect. I think they have the 4th best odds in the entire conference, and they're the 1 seed. They just won 60 games. Celtics are 1, Cavs, I believe, are 2, and then I think the Knicks are ahead of the Pistons. It might be changed now. I think at least recently the Knicks were ahead of the Pistons. But the Pistons, they're getting disrespect. They're probably just using it as a chip on their shoulder. I would too. The Cavs, Mitchell and Harden, that's a lethal combo. They still get the double big lineup with Mobley and Allen. The Cavs are going to be forced to be reckoned with. Now, I'm stuck in this scenario if I want to say 6 or 7 games. I certainly think at minimum it's going 6. I think at minimum both Detroit and the Cavs are going to win at least 2 games in this series. I'm going to say 7. I'm going to say this series goes 7. Now, if it does go 7, excuse me here. If it does go 7, I will be a bit nervous for the Pistons playing Donovan Mitchell in a game 7. He can go off. Harden has the notorious playoff choker narrative, but I think if this series happens, I think Harden could play well. I'm going to go with the Pistons. I think a majority of people, and I think most people predicting this to happen, assuming the Pistons beat the 8 seed and the Cavs beat the Raptors, I think most people are predicting this matchup to happen, but I think a majority of people are picking the Cavs if this matchup does happen from the very early predictions that I've seen from the brackets made. This is really, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. But anyway, I'm gonna pick the Pistons. I just think home court, chip on their shoulder that they're getting disrespected. Odds wise, at least no one's picking them. That they're gonna end up winning. I just think they're very well rounded, very well balanced. That crowd's gonna be going crazy. Very tough physical defensive team. Maybe Harden chokes. I would pick them against the Cavs. Very well could see the Cavs winning, maybe even in six too. The playoff experience, the Pistons may sort of inexperienced in the playoffs. The pressure gets to them. I mean, honestly, the pressure would kind of be. I mean, it would be on the Pistons seeding wise, but again, I feel like most people would pick the Cavs. The Pistons might be favored, but I feel like it'd be very close split of people picking the Cavs. So maybe the pressure's on the Cavs. I don't know. This is another really tough matchup, but I will pick the Pistons. I'll honestly say in seven. I think it's going seven. I'll pick Detroit, but could go either way. Could see the Cavs very easily. Not easily, but in terms of who's going to win, I could see the Cavs certainly winning that matchup. And then we have a rematch of the semis last year. Same exact scenario, too, with seeding. The 3-seeded Knicks at the 2-seeded Celtics. Now, last year, pretty much everyone had this in their second round bracket. Actually, I remember Dylan, I'm pretty sure, picked the Pistons as the 6th seed. The Pistons could have won that series, even though they lost in 6. They blew the first game, and they blew game 4 and 6. They blew, maybe even game 3 as well. But anyway, Isaiah Stewart getting hurt really hurt them too. But most people had this in their second round matchup, and pretty much everyone picked the Celtics. I mean, even Knicks fans, from what I remember, picked the Celtics. I remember Brian Windhorst on ESPN said if the Knicks get the series to 6, they should have a parade. No one thought the Knicks had a chance. The Celtics won 10 more games in the regular season. They beat the Knicks all 4 times. No one thought the Knicks had a chance. I called the Knicks the fraud York Knicks. I called them that last year because I didn't think they really had a chance to compete for a championship with the way their roster is constructed. I still call them the fraud York Knicks. I still stand by that. But last year, in terms of results, I was obviously dead wrong. They won in 6. They beat us in 6. However, I may sound like a sore loser, but I still think we kind of handed them that series more than they wanted. The first 2 games were up 20, both of them. We just get 3 heavy, which has been an issue for us. I love Joe Mazzulla, but that's certainly an issue with us. We get 2 3 heavy. I believe we shot 1-2 in game 1 in the third quarter, and it was a Horford breakaway dunk. And even a good amount of the threes were open ones or slightly contested ones we normally hit, and we didn't. We went historically cold shooting stretch in both games 1 and 2, and we ended up choking. We blew those games. Game 3 we won. Game 4 we're up 14 in the second half. Tatum, obviously that's the Achilles game. We probably would have lost. However, we would have been down 9 with like 2 minutes and 50-something seconds left. That's difficult. Knicks had all the momentum. I get it. But especially the way Tatum was playing that game, we could have won that game. We saw the Knicks blew a 9-point lead with 50-something seconds left to the Pacers. Again, just different circumstances, different team in the Pacers. But we could have won that game. Even if we would have lost that game, I still think we would have. Well, I would have believed my team until we are officially out, but we very well could have come back from 3-1 too if Tatum had stayed healthy. I thought we even had a chance without him. But anyway, my point is, I think we credit to the Knicks, but I think us blowing the first 2 games, kind of with self-inflicted wounds, is what really lost us the series against them. This year, the players are especially going to have a chip on their shoulder. Obviously, they know what happened last year. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I don't think they're going to let it happen 2 years in a row. They're going to be extra motivated, not that they need anymore. So I'm going to pick the Celtics. I'm going to say we win in 6. I think the Knicks will get 2 games. Certainly don't think it'll be a sweep. But I'm going to say Celtics 6. Yes, the Knicks won 3-1 in the regular season. The first time was that was when I think we put in the second game of the year. We started off 0-3. We weren't great at the start of the year. The second matchup we won. We were down early. We came back and won. I remember we had a decent lead, and then Bridges, for whatever reason, turns into the greatest player in NBA history when he plays us. Even the other day, he went on a 7-0 run to start the game. I don't think he missed a shot in the game, for Christ's sake. But yeah. So there was that match, and then the third one was Super Bowl Sunday. We just shot so poorly that game. Missed a good amount of open looks. I remember we lost that, and then we lost the other night narrowly without Jaylen Brown. And yes, Shireman is not going to score 20 consistently against the Knicks, although he scored 30 yesterday against the Magic. Magnet ball from 3 for most of the game. But we missed Brown, who was a 30-point per game guy almost. So, yeah, I'm not going to take the regular season into account. And we saw last year, we swept them. We won all 4 games, I think 3 of them in blowouts. And then we saw what happened in the postseason last year. So the chip on the shoulder, not letting what happened last year happen again this year, I'm going to pick the Celtics in 6. I could see the Knicks winning, but if the Knicks win, I think it'll be in 6. I don't think it'll go 7. I don't think the Knicks will win a Game 7 at TD Garden, but who knows? I'm going to say Celtics in 6, though. And, yeah, I'll have us advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, which I thought probably going into the year, second round matchup, or the second round would be our ceiling. But here we are as the betting favorites to win the East. Okay. Conference Finals. Take a sip of water here. We're almost there. Okay. Starting in the West, Thunder Nuggets. Now, this is interesting because we saw the Nuggets last year push the Thunder to 7, and they had MPJ with a significant shoulder injury where he said he could barely raise his shoulder without pain, said it was like excruciating to shoot. And then Aaron Gordon had a significant hamstring injury, and they still forced the Thunder to 7 games. And the Thunder last year, I think, were better than they were this year. Excuse me. Dying. Yes, the Thunder dealt with some injuries this year, and they finished with a similar record, but I think the Thunder last year are better than they are this year. And this Nuggets team, I think, is better than they were last year. So if the Nuggets this year, who are better than last year's team, pushed, in my opinion, what was a better Thunder team to 7, they very well could win this series. Again, Jokic, I think, is probably going to go off. I'm going to say Thunder in 6. I think the Nuggets, again, at this point in my prediction bracket, they will have gone through the Timberwolves, and then I'm predicting a 7-game series against the Spurs. I think they're kind of going to run out of gas a bit, is the logic why I'm picking the Thunder. I think it'll be a very competitive series. I could see it going 7. If it does, I honestly, if this series goes 7, the Thunder should win if it goes to Game 7 again. I mean, at this point, if Jokic is going to win a Game 7 in San Antonio and knock off the Timberwolves in the first round, I honestly may pick the Nuggets again. But getting a call here. Who is calling me? Okay, no clue who the hell that is, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm going to pick the Thunder here. I'm tempted to pick the Nuggets. I really am, but I just can't. I'm going to pick the Thunder home court. I probably gas Nuggets team compared to the Thunder, who I'm predicting sweep the Clippers and then win in 5 against the Rockets. So the Nuggets will, and I said Nuggets in 6, so they'll have played 13 games, and the Thunder have only played 9. So yeah, the Thunder's more well rested, home court, probably the better team overall. I'm going to pick the Thunder in this scenario. Could see the Nuggets. If it is the Spurs, I still would pick the Thunder because of the inexperience, which is why I picked the. Sorry, I'm just getting a bunch of text here, which is why I picked the Nuggets against the Spurs. But I would say Thunder in 6 against the Spurs. That could go 7. I wouldn't be shocked if the Spurs win. A good amount of people are picking the Spurs to beat the Thunder and make the finals and win the West. So I think realistically, really the only teams that can win the West are the Thunder, Nuggets, and Spurs. Nuggets and Spurs kind of interchangeable where you can do either or. Nugget or Thunder should certainly be the favorite. Timberwolves, kind of a dark horse, but so it's just the wind just like blew outside. It looks like freaking my roof was caving in. But Timberwolves kind of a dark horse, but I don't think they're going to get past the Spurs and the Thunder. If they do get past the Nuggets, just an absolute gauntlet the West is. Thunder certainly have an easier path than both the Nuggets and Spurs. So I'm going to pick the Thunder. Very tough matchup, though. I'll go with OKC in 6. Okay, then the Eastern Conference Finals. I am very intrigued if this happens. All of the games against the Pistons were close this year. We didn't have Tatum for any of them. The Pistons, this will be a tough physical matchup for us. It'll kind of be, I think, similar to when we played Orlando last year, but the Pistons are obviously a much better offensive team, so they'll be much more challenging than Orlando was last year. And even though we won in 5, that was a tough series for us, the Magic last year, especially physically. So the Celtics, Pistons, this is tough. I'm going to go with my team, though. I'm going to go with my beloved Celtics. I'm going to say Celtics in 6. The playoff experience is a factor. Obviously, Celtics are as playoff experienced as you can be, at least with Tatum and Brown. Some of the guys that played this year, like Shireman and Walsh, has been in and out, but Garza not so much. But a lot of them have playoff experience. Queta, they were on the bench and really get minutes, but still they have playoff experience, at least being a part of the playoff environment. So I'm going to go with the Celtics. Playoff experience, crunch time against this inexperienced Pistons team coming off a gauntlet of a series against Cleveland, I'm predicting. So I'm going to go with the Celtics, mainly the playoff experience. Tatum being back, the game's being close without Tatum. I think Tatum helps us get over the edge. I'll say Celtics in 6. Pistons, I could see it, but I would feel fairly confident the Celtics beating the Pistons. This is most people's bracket have either Celtics Pistons or Celtics Cavs, have the Celtics advancing. Mine Celtics Pistons. If it's the Cavs, I'll stick with Celtics in 6. Could see 5, but Cavs, I don't think they would beat us unless Mitchell consistently goes off, which he always does against everyone, but especially against us for some reason. He averages like 30 points a game against us or something like that. But as far as my official prediction here, I'm going to say Celtics in 6. Pistons, hell of a year. Come up a bit short of the finals. But tip your cap to them. I'm going to say Celtics, though, which I never in a million years would have imagined us making the finals before the season. I did say if we can kind of hover around the, like a mid-seed, like 4, 5, 6, and Tatum comes back and he gets to close to Tatum form, if not full form, we could be a very dangerous team, but I did not think in a million years we would have been in the finals. But anyway, so my projected finals matchup, Thunder Celtics. The Thunder would certainly be favored unless an injury, again, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, an injury or something like that happens. Thunder would certainly be favored. They would obviously have home court over us, being the higher seed team. Even if we were the 1 seed, the Thunder have a better record than us. Thunder, certainly this year, the more well-rounded team, you can say. This was supposed to be a gap year for us. Yes, we have Tatum and Brown, but Queta was a question mark going into the year. Guy like Shireman, guy like Hauser, a bunch of question marks. Derek White, how can I almost forget Derek White? I'll talk about another playoff experience guy. But a lot of question marks, a lot of rotation question marks for us going into the year. We certainly have filled that out. I'm going to be interested to see our playoff rotation, though, with some guys. How many minutes is Shireman, Walsh, Garza going to get? Is it going to be matchup dependent, especially Garza and Vucevic? Obviously, Queta's going to start at center. Thunder, but Thunder, they're pretty consistent with their starting 5. They changed it up in the finals last year against the Pacers, but I'm sure they'll have their typical 5-man unit starters out there. If this is the finals matchup, a lot of people predicting Thunder Celtics or Spurs Celtics. I don't think I've seen one with the Nuggets in the finals, but Thunder or Spurs have certainly been the most common picks coming out of the West from what I've seen. Celtics definitely the most common out of the East. And Yeah, so this happens. The Thunder would be favored. Most people would be picking the Thunder. And this very well, I think we get a much better shot than people think. It could go either way. The Thunder probably should win. I like the way we match up with them, though, honestly. And obviously, you don't want to base everything off the regular season, but the two regular season games, we didn't have Tatum for the first one, and it was in OKC, and Pritchard got a really good look to win the game. If there was like zero point 0.8 seconds left, so he kind of just had to catch and quickly heave. And, came up a bit short, but he got a good look that he normally hits those. Pritchard, the buzzer beater, came. And of course, the Thunder, it was tied and they missed the shot. But they end up, what a surprise, going to the free throw line to win the game. And who was it? Lou Dort, I think, shoved Hauser into Holmgren too. So whatever. But then in Boston, we won fairly comfortably. We had a decent lead. We were down early, then we got a decent lead. Then the Thunder chipped into it in the fourth. Then we ended up holding on. I like how many different bodies, and this is kind of the whole year, how many different bodies we can throw at teams. Shireman may go some games without playing. Then he can get a heavy amount of minutes. He can really contribute. Walsh can go a good stretch without playing. Garza can go a good amount without playing, but we can just throw them in on the spot like that, and they fit right in. I really like how versatile we are this year, and I think us throwing those guys, we probably won't play Walsh and Shireman a bunch of minutes against the Thunder. Shireman certainly over Walsh, I would think, but if needed, we can throw some guys at the Thunder. And the Thunder are a deep team too, but I like the way we match up with the Thunder. I really do. It's so hard to repeat. No team has gotten past the second round that won the championship prior. I think the Thunder will certainly get past that this year, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. No one knows what's going to happen for sure. This is really tough. I'm going to go with my team. Maybe you can say a bit of bias, but like I said, I really like the way we match up against the Thunder, honestly. Brown played well both games against the Thunder. And again, we didn't even have Tatum for the first matchup in OKC. We went right down to the wire with them, and they were missing, who the hell were they? They were missing Hartenstein and someone else, but it wasn't as impactful as Tatum. No disrespect to those guys. I'm going to say Celtics in 6. That might be really bold, but I'm going to go with it. Never in a million years before the year would I have predicted us to win the finals, but I'm going to go with it. And as far as finals MVP, I'm going to say Tatum, and I did some math. I'm going to assume he's going to average, my guess is 23-ish points per game in the finals. So you do the math there, 6 games. So roughly 141. Actually, let me double check that I did. Oh no, I did 23.5, right? Yeah. Okay. So I think overall for the postseason, Tatum's going to continue to get better and better. He's going to elevate his game the more and more time he gets. Brown, obviously it's probably going to either be Tatum or Brown if the Celtics do win. Brown, honestly, excuse me. Brown statistically, well, he's had the better season, but Tatum's working back from the Achilles. Brown, I think he honestly might outplay Tatum if this happens for the overall series, but it might be close enough where it's like, all right, well, they gave it to Brown 2 years ago. Some people thought it was Tatum. He was first Finals MVP with the stats he had to not get, or first person to not win Finals MVP with the stats he had to not win it. Brown was very deserving, but Tatum very easily could have won it. Coin flip, you can say. We gave it to Brown 2 years ago. They're close this year. Probably should be Brown, but we'll give it to Tatum. I honestly think might be the situation, or Tatum could just flat out maybe just deserve it more than Brown. I don't give a shit though, because as long as my team wins, I could give a shit if it's the 15th man that wins it. It'd be nice if Tatum could win it though. Get a Finals MVP under his rack. What a story coming back from the Achilles, winning the Finals MVP. Thunder again would be favored. Probably should win the series. If they do win, it'll probably be in 6 or 7. But I think both teams will at least win 2 games in the series. But I'm going to pick the Celtics because fuck it, that's my team, and I really do believe it. Gonna be tough though. This is gonna be a really fun playoff matchup, a bunch of fun playoff matches. I'm pretty confident with all my first round picks, honestly. Probably the one I'm most uneasy about is Nuggets Timberwolves, Lakers Rockets. If Luka comes back, for the most part, I'm confident with my first round matchups. Playing, I'm sort of confident. The Charlotte Miami game I'm a bit iffy on, but feel fairly okay with the Hornets. Hopefully. Second round at Pistons Cavs, that really could go either way. Knicks Celtics could go either way, but I feel okay with those two picks. Thunder Rockets feel good with the Thunder pick. Nuggets Spurs certainly feel uneasy on, but I'll very hesitantly pick the Nuggets. Nuggets Thunder could go either way, but Spurs could go either way, but I'll go the Thunder, and then I feel fairly confident if it's the Pistons or Cavs. And then my finals pick, not too confident with it, but I like the way you match with the Thunder. I'm going to go with us. Tatum Finals MVP, 141 total points. Oh, wait, I just realized that's... Oh, shit, I'm going to have to redo my tiebreaker here. All right, let's see. I just did it for the finals here, but so yeah, okay. So what I say? So let's do some math here real quick. What did I say? 6 plus. All right. All right. So let me just double check. I did that. Got 540.5. I'll just round up. So 540 divided by. No, that's not right, is it? 5, so 12. Oh, that is right. Okay, so yeah. So basically, that is just me guessing if I'm predicting 5, 6, 6, 6 for how many games the Celtics play in their fourth round matchups. Add that up, 23 total games times 23 and a half total points. I'm just guessing Tatum will average to the final or the playoff run, get 540.5. Then you just round it up to 541. So I'll say that for my tiebreaker. Dylan and I are going to try later to record a podcast talking about the bracket, going over our brackets. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested. But it should be fun. Play-in starts tomorrow. Should be really fun, these playoffs. But I will wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Feel free to comment. If you like my picks, think they're stupid, feel free to comment your picks. Feel free to comment whatever the hell you want. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll wrap this one up here. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as we gear up for the playoffs here especially, go Celts.